Hello and welcome to the PropTech Hot Seat on iPropertyRadio with myself, Carol Tallon, the show where we explore trends and technologies driving innovation across the built environment. The show is brought to you in partnership with PropTech Ireland, the hub for innovators, investors and for industry leaders. In the PropTech Hot Seat today, we have Darragh VR garden designer at Duir Design. Darragh, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Carol.
I'm delighted to chat to you, particularly when this is such a busy week in the run-up to Bloom, which we will definitely get on to. But first of all, for people listening in, a VR garden designer, what is that?
It's kind of is what it says on the tin, but it's taken traditional garden design to a whole new immersive level. So no longer are you stuck with your 2D plans where you have to guess and imagine how it's going to turn out. With VR garden design, we can fully immerse you in your dream garden before it's even built.
And in terms of helping people to conceptualize, obviously when, we rely a lot on immersive technologies for the built environment to visualize a building in its context or how it's going to imagine. And I think it's a wonderful thing for people who can't, like myself, who can't visualize plans in 2D. But because gardens are subject to the whims of nature as well, how can you show people the garden at different times of the year and even different times of the day?
The daytime is a lot easier because it's just based on the sun and the shadow. So when we do a site survey, we take all the measurements, so the height of walls, existing trees, the house, etc., the position where it is, and then the beauty of technology, we can then show exactly where the sun will be during the day, which months, and then plot it and show the shades and stuff like that. When it comes to seasons, it is a little bit trickier, but it's not impossible. We tend to focus usually on the month of July because that's kind of when everybody is using the garden the most. So that's kind of when we would be designing like where you're going to be sitting, etc. That'll be kind of July is usually the month we focus on. So what's in bloom at that time, etc., etc.
Garden architecture and landscaping is not something that we've seen connected so closely with technology, and particularly, taking advantage of emerging technologies. What's your background? Do you come from this as a technologist or a gardening expert?
Oh, well, probably. Well, I started off, I studied product design in university. So that's kind of where the innovation and the creativity comes from. And then while I was in university, I worked as the horticulture's assistant for 4 years in Woodies. So that kind of sparked my interest in planting and gardening and all things nature. And then I lived in Thailand for 5 years. I'm only back just over a year now. And while I was there, I was mostly teaching English, but in my spare time then I volunteered on a hydroponics farm and then also took permaculture courses in Chiang Mai in the Royal Botanic Gardens. So while I was over there, I got bogged down a little bit with teaching English because as enjoyable as it just wasn't for me. So I kind of saw something that I was able to do with VR design and then my passion for gardening, and I just thought, why not bring them together?
How has this been received in terms of early clients? I appreciate you're at quite early days with this, but how are your target audience reacting to this?
Yeah, very positive. I think one of the hurdles that we to overcome is the VR aspect. A lot of people are like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. But it's not until they actually wear the headset and get like transported to the garden. That's when the light bulb moment clicks and it's like, all right, this is very beneficial. Because it's as I said before, like it's one thing looking at 2D plans or even 3D models, but you just doesn't give you the sense of scale or relation to your house. And then we also have like the sounds of water flowing in the background, the birds chirping. So it really does transport you there. So that really is, once the headset goes on, that's when people are it's the gotcha moment.
Excellent. And it's something that we see in terms of, say, new homes or the fit out of new homes. But in terms of how you're communicating and sharing your ideas with your clients and potential clients, it's a big move to go from 2D to 3D, then into VR rendering. And we're intimately aware, unfortunately, of the costs of developing VR experiences. So how are you factoring that in to, is this something that your clients pay for, or what's the business model around this?
Well, the software that I use, I'm very lucky that it isn't a massive leap from the 3D models to the VR. Mm-hmm. So kind of usually like the pricing structure to be 2D, 3D, and then the VR. So a lot of the time, most people are kind of like, the 3D is enough. But then I'll show them an example of a previous work that I've done, I'll put it on kind of, and then at that stage they're like, okay, actually let's upgrade to the VR. And as well, because at that stage, sometimes with the VR, we're then able to, once they put that on, they're kind of like, oh, actually, I don't think I like the garden room over there. Can we try it somewhere else? And it's not that difficult to then replace, remove, all that sort of stuff. So
it's interesting, actually. One of the things we've seen, and I think that still surprises people, and obviously it's because of the major advances in technologies, but previously we might have seen a CGI image and it was quite different to what the end result would be on the street, whereas now when we're seeing kind of really good 2D and particularly 3D renders, when the building is built, it's it's almost identical. And there is this social media challenge of kind of spot the reality and spot the render. Some of them are so good, particularly kind of amongst the top tier of providers, but that's bricks and mortar. They're very reliable and not so dependent on the elements. Have you been doing this for long enough to be able to maybe compare a VR rendering with something that is in growth stage now to a garden that has been delivered? And because gardens, unlike buildings, they're constantly changing. Have you been in a position to kind of compare VR with the delivered results?
Not yet really, to be honest, because we just started back at the end of January. So a lot of the planting and stuff is only kind of started recently. Whereas kind of, I suppose, coming up to, because we'll be showcasing in Bloom, and that'll be a fantastic chance, because in Bloom, because it's a show garden, you really have to plant it as if it's been there for 2 or 3 years. There's everything is full, so there isn't those spaces and stuff like that. So that'll probably be our first very good case study of exactly like for like. So I'm very excited about that.
Have you shared a 3D rendering of your Bloom design publicly?
I only did kind of the initial kind of stage for when the brief was put in, but that has changed a little bit since. So, and it was very quick because the deadline for Bloom was December, and then I kind of threw my name in the hat only in February. So, and then they came back to me at the start of March. So I'm a bit behind everything else. So I kind of just threw something together the first time, but now at Bloom, and there is kind of a little bit of, we're not allowed to share too much until Thursday, the 1st of June. That's when I'll be showing likes for likes, hopefully.
Very good. And tell me, for visitors going along to Bloom, and that includes our own show producer here, she booked the day off months ago to make sure that she could attend. So you'll be getting an in-person visit, no doubt there. But what can people attending expect to see? I understand you can't share too much, but maybe what can they expect to see or experience in your garden?
Yeah, well, I suppose the show garden will start with that, because that's what it's based on. So that's a bit of an amalgamation of myself and my wife. So my wife is a yoga teacher and massage therapist, and her business is sponsoring the garden. So it's based around, it's an Irish cottage with a little bit of Asian influence. So and then there's a meditation circle there as well. So kind of some native Asian planting, but that does very well in Ireland. So it still has that then Irish cottage feel with some wild cottage meadow grass as well for biodiversity. And then
that sounds amazing, Darragh. I look forward to seeing it myself. Irish cottage garden with Asian influence just sounds really. It sounds like something that could really transport you away, and I love the idea of having a meditation space. So it sounds lovely, and I look forward to seeing that. In terms of, I suppose your next steps in terms of the VR, because are you doing this hands-on yourself, or do you have a team working with you?
At the moment, it's just myself. Everything. So
So
a one-man show at the moment, yeah.
Well, it's an interesting cross-section of skills to be able to put your hands in the soil and then, render the VR and immersive technologies, during the additional time. So that sounds amazing. But in terms of kind of next steps to the business, what would you see as the hallmark of success, say, coming out of Bloom? Would it be more garden design for you, or would it be more uptake of the VR experience?
I suppose it's a bit of both. I'm kind of at the moment I'm at a bit of a crossroads with my business direction where I'm going, but I really would like to actually like partner with other garden designers more so that that they'll come to me and their clients with their 2D plans, maybe their 3D renderings, and then kind of I'll upsell it so that then they can also have the VR experience. Or else I go down the route of the one-stop shop. But I think partnering up across the country would probably be a bit more beneficial and more in line with what I'm capable of.
And it would probably help more people be able to use this as a tool. And we know it's a necessary tool. Tell me, Darragh, the clients and potential clients that you've met with and shown really brought your ideas to life, and they can experience that through the headset. Of their reaction and how they've taken it on board, what has surprised you the most?
Well, I suppose the first thing that surprised me the most was I would have assumed that more people have experienced VR. I suppose I'd be into technology a bit, so I just would have assumed people had experienced it. So a lot of people have never put on a headset before and didn't know what to expect. So when they were like immersed in the garden and, they're beside a tree and it feels like the tree is in their face. It's a lot of, wow, oh my God, those like kind of reactions of just being transported there. They just kind of couldn't believe it.
Do you position their home in the VR at all?
Yeah, so I would like take their existing boundaries and house and then model the house and the existing boundaries, or if the boundaries will change, but so that they feel like this is how it's going to look. And I try and replicate the house as close as possible. Now, it isn't perfect, but you get a very good sense of how your garden's going to look in relation to your house as well, because it's very important to marry the house, because the garden is an extended room. So if it's just you need to have that cohesion and that feel and marry them together, harmony.
Darragh, what kind of trends are you seeing from people and the clients and potential clients that you're talking to? What kind of trends are emerging?
In the sense of technology, or
more for
the garden aspect?
Yeah, but probably more for the garden and people's expectations, because I think you described it there as really an extension of the home. And honestly, our gardens never really were that when we were growing up in more rural locations. Whereas we can see now, particularly since COVID, people really learned how to appreciate, embrace, and really use their outdoor space. And that meant, because it's Ireland, a certain amount of weatherproofing. So whether it was canopies or garden rooms or whatever it is. But I think you're absolutely right. As our homes get smaller and we live in greater density, I think any space we can carve out for ourselves absolutely needs to be usable. It's not something that can be used 5 days of the year for a barbecue when we sunshine. It needs to be usable, if not all year round, then a huge chunk of it.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I think, COVID and for many businesses has like just exploded certain industries, and gardening is one of them. I suppose one of the big emerging trends at the moment is sustainability and biodiversity, and it's plastered everywhere, and you'll see at Bloom there is a lot of pollinator friendly plants, a lot of the wild meadows, the kind of that feel, and then using reclaimed material. That's one of my passions that always has been, even when I was in university. I used to love creating, like, especially lamps for some reason, out of old junk, like creating something that shouldn't be what it is into something. So you can see that a lot now. There's one of the gardens by Citra and Nicola Haynes, and it's amazing. It's all about that kind of reusing and stuff like that. So yeah, I suppose they're the two big ones at the moment: sustainability and biodiversity.
Yeah, I'm so excited actually to see some of the innovations that come out at Bloom, and very best of luck to yourself there. How are you in terms of where are you in terms of finishing the garden? Are you nearly there?
Yeah, we're nearly there. We had the big kind of planting push there on Monday and Tuesday. So by the end of the week now, it'll be all finished and just give it time to settle. And then the judging is on Monday, so that's the make or break day. But for me, it'll be actually the Thursday when people come in, because I'm a bit more interested in the VR side than the show garden side. I probably shouldn't be saying that, but I really want visitors to come along and experience the garden at the design stage with the VR headset, and then also in real life, so they can kind of get a comparison of how it feels and then how it will look. And also on the day, if anybody of your listeners are going, there's a competition over the weekend to win a free VR garden design. So they'll just have to scan the QR code and be entered into the draw. So.
Oh, fantastic. Listen, well, definitely we would urge anybody listening in who is going along to Bloom, and that includes, again, our producer, Katie. She was kind of first in line to go. But we'll make sure that, as many people as possible know to visit your garden, and certainly to be able a chance to win that virtual VR design. It's honestly, I think I'm a huge fan of immersive technologies. Anyway, this is the first time I've seen it being made available to individuals when they're planning their garden, as opposed to, because property developers have been using this to showcase their landscaping and their public realm, and we know how effective it is. We know that people can really experience the design before and have it brought to life virtually before it comes to life, and before they make decisions and make investments, more importantly. So I'm delighted to see VR experiences for the built environment moving down to kind of a domestic and homeowner level. I think it's a really important transition. So well done to yourself and the team there. Anything we can do to support you, would be so happy to do it, because I think it's a wonderful initiative. And very best of luck to yourself in Bloom. For people who might not be able to make it to Bloom but are interested in the VR experience, how can they get in contact with you, Darragh?
There's the website, which is Duir Design, which is DUIR design.ie. And then I'm on nearly all the social media channels: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter as well. I'm not great at the social media, but I definitely will reply. So
very good. Listen, best of luck, and we'll make sure that we include links to social media when we're circulating the podcast. So thank you so much for joining us today, when I know this is such a busy week for you. So again, very best of luck to yourself and to your wife, who is not just sponsoring, but no doubt inspiring and helping at every level of delivering this design. So very best of luck to you both for that. That was Darragh Colopy, VR garden designer at Duir Design. Again, thanks to our producer, Katie Talden, and to the production team at Hear Me Roar Media on sound. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast and check out all of our other construction and real estate shows on iPropertyRadio. My thanks to PropTech Ireland for supporting our podcast and for making these conversations possible. And thank you indeed for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode of the PropTech Hot Seat here on iPropertyRadio.